Hey, how's it going? Happy Friday, so good to see you. Hey, would you do me a favor? Before you go any further in this video, would you actually stop if you have not yet signed up to serve with us on Easter weekend? Would you actually stop and click on the link below for the location that you prefer to serve at, and would you join us on Easter Sunday? We're gonna have thousands of people walking through our doors. Some of them are kicking the tires of faith. Some of them are far from God. Some of them are just about there, to making a decision. Unchurched, de-churched people coming through the doors, and we know that God is preparing their hearts even now. Like as this video is being recorded, as you're watching this even now, there are hearts being prepared to receive the good news about Jesus. And we want, when folks walk through the doors, for them to feel really, really welcome. And we want our very best connectors to be serving in those spots, and that's you. And so would you take a moment and would you sign up below? Now listen, if you go to our sign up link, it's gonna look a little bit different. It's gonna ask you to sign in first, and then it's gonna show you the opportunities. And I know that's not how you normally like to do things, and I know that's maybe not how you've normally seen it either, but I don't want you to feel like you're gonna be in jail by walking through that door and taking a peek. Like, click on it, please, look around, and see what looks good to you. And if you decide that nothing is of interest to you, you're not stuck. You're able to back out of that, okay? But we went with a little bit different way of doing this so that we could hopefully communicate with you better along the way, and we think it's gonna be really beneficial. It's just a different platform. We don't do our Easter and Christmas scheduling through Planning Center online like we do every other Sunday morning. And the reason for that is because we don't just ask our connections team to serve, we also open this up to the church far and wide, and they don't want to join our connections team per se, they just want to serve at a one-off event. And so we create a one-off sign up for them. So if you could please sign up through that one-off sign up, which is the link below for your location, that would be super helpful. And if you have friends and family who you know would be great at welcoming people too, please invite them in. We want a huge team to welcome a huge number of people coming through, and you could be a part of making a difference for that, and it's really significant. So thank you for that. Okay, I want to talk to you for a second. Share with you just a little story. Some of you have heard this story, but when I was in high school, I took to language really well and really quick. I jumped into German my 9th grade year, German 1. I advanced to German 3 my 10th grade year, German 5 my junior year, and then I went to German 10 my senior year. And that was because kids at that level who were in 10th grade at that time had been learning since kindergarten. And so I skipped and went on level with them. And in between my junior and senior year, I went to Germany as an exchange student for a while. One day we were out on a field trip, and we're in the Black Forest in Rhineland-Pfalz, which is along the border of France, and infamous Black Forest cake, yum. And so we're there, and there's all these cool rock formations on this path when we go on this hike. There's these cool rock formations. Now we're on a field trip with a big group of people, but we're a bunch of 17-year-old boys, and we start to get adventurous. And so we start climbing along in these rocks, and we're trying to take pictures with like our little old Kodaks, and that little blue bulb, if you got to be old to know what I'm talking about. And we're trying to get these pictures to look like we're like climbing mountains, but we're really like 3 feet off the ground. I mean, we're not really doing anything super adventurous. We just want to look like it. And so while we're goofing around here, we got off the beaten path more than we realized. And without us knowing it, our whole group walked on, and actually we had no idea where we were when we came back to the path. And we had no idea where our group was. It was just us. So we start walking, and it's clear that we are lost. And this has some turns to it that are really pretty scary along the way. We find ourselves in French military zone, signs that say danger of death by shooting, and we're on the French side of that because we had somehow wandered to something. It was crazy, and it was scary even. And it went from being adventurous to really scary pretty quick. And for a couple hours, we wandered and wondered if this is just if we were going to be one of those stories in the newspaper, Well, so a couple hours later, we come across a sign. It says, Hilst 3 kilometers that way. We look off and we can see a village kind of down. And so we decide we're going to start walking towards that village. Along the way, we find a road. And as we start walking on that road, we see a man way off in the distance. He's standing by a car, and we don't know who he is. But as we get a little closer, I realize he's my exchange father, Mr. Düring. And he's leaning up against his Mercedes, like he's waiting for us to come down that road. I don't know if he knew we were coming that way because this is pre-cell phone, so he couldn't like track us. He had no idea where we were. He couldn't get a hold of us, right? And we couldn't get a hold of anybody else. But when we walked up, I could tell like he was frustrated but also relieved, and I was like embarrassed but also relieved, you know? And we get to the in the car, and he takes us to where everybody else is, and I mean, it was tense, but it actually ended up being like the group was just really concerned about us and cared for us, right? And it ended up playing out okay. You know, life is like that sometimes, right? Like sometimes life takes some turns, and we end up being in places we didn't intend to be, and they keep us longer than we intended to be there. And that's like what all of our story is. Ephesians 2 says it like this. It says, you know, as for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us, you know, lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our sinful nature. I mean, there I was, you know, we're just having fun, man. But we end up like far away, you know, in our own thing. And, you know, it's like that in our walk with God sometimes too, that people can end up like really, really far away from God. But then it says this in verse 4, but because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. Man, aren't you thankful for the grace of God and the goodness of God, which came right in the middle of all your junk and lifted you out of that and saved you? This Easter, we are so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share that good news with somebody else. And not only to share that good news that like, hey, Christ has risen, but also that like he gets like what you're going through. He gets your journey. He understands like where you've been. We're kicking off a series called He Gets Us, and you've seen these cards maybe around that talk about that, or maybe you saw the ads on the Super Bowl commercial. But that idea that Jesus, like he'll take you right where you are, and then he'll make it good. He'll make it new. And friend, would you be praying even now for the truth that God showed you once upon a time to begin to permeate the hearts, souls, and minds of those around you, and to prepare you to be able to be a person who can help invite people along to a better path, to a better direction, out of darkness into light, out of death into life. We get to be a part of that every Sunday when we serve, and all week long when we are open to being used as connectors for Jesus. And I want to just ask you once again, please be a part of that with us as we head into this Easter weekend. Hey, we're so grateful for you. We're so thankful that you're a part of this Connections team, and we can't wait to see what God's up to. Let's go get in on God's plan for Austin.